We have big news out of Meta, which feels like it's been like a couple weeks. It's been a little while since we had some like major shakeups from Meta. We've had everyone roll out their kind of like their DeepSeek clones, their deep research, all of these like kind of tools that have been coming out. We've loved them all. And I've been feeling like Meta's been missing from the conversation on that regard, and maybe in a couple areas. So people are saying, what happened to Meta? What happened to Jaeden Schafer? I never see him on X anymore. Did they disappear? Their PR face is gone. You have Logan Kilpatrick, who's over at Google, who's constantly pumping stuff out. So they're in my feed. Meta doesn't feel like it's always in my feed. So today we're doing a Meta episode. Two big things that are coming out. The first is that they are creating an anti-scam facial recognition. They're running a test over in the UK and Europe. We'll cover a little bit of that today. And they're also creating a standalone application. Now, I have a lot of thoughts and opinions on this, but I want to hear from Conor. Tell us a little bit about their standalone Meta app.
Yeah, this is the thing that I've been tracking a lot. And Jaeden, you and I talk about this a lot. And I do see our friend Jan LeCun, shout out to NYU.
Are you on Threads? I hear he posts on Threads.
Okay, I'm not on Threads, man, but I see him on LinkedIn. Jaeden, you think I'm like so like socially active? I don't know. Anyway, so with Meta, Meta sort of like took a serious hit with DeepSeek, right? So like they kind of got a little bit beat up, right? Because DeepSeek is exactly in their corner in terms of sort of fighting out of the same corner in terms of open source and everything like that. But listen, Meta is a phenomenal company, obviously. But this standalone app thing, and again, follow us on YouTube if you want to sort of see how Jaeden shares his screen. It's always interesting. The standalone app, I'm dying to see, not because I would necessarily use it, but because one of the things is that it's very hard to compare apples and oranges here, because when Meta talks about their users, Jaeden, you and I have talked about this before. They'll be like, we have like 600 million users. And I'm like, wait a minute, like when I use, WhatsApp, or when I'm on Instagram and I, just search for something, that's technically using Meta. So I always felt like those numbers were just wildly inflated. And so, I mean, I don't care one way or the other, but this standalone app is going to be really interesting because it's going to allow it to get a better handle on who's actually using Meta. I also wonder if it won't, and I haven't seen this in the news, but it'll just give them more data. Do you know what I mean? Like people are just desperate for data. I mean, Grok has a standalone app, all that sort of stuff. My guess is that part of those things are just so that people pump more questions and more data and they can learn, especially in something like open source, right? So I think that may be part of the reason. I'm trying to figure out like what Meta's game is here. Again, I think it's just, probably doesn't cost them that much to create a standalone app. I might be totally wrong on that, but I'm actually curious to use it. And Jaeden, something you said probably when we talked about last week or something like that, really has gotten me thinking over the past week or so, which is that you said that you're really getting into Grok and using Grok, the standalone app on Grok and things like that. And Grok to me is a little bit of an afterthought. But then when I actually use Grok, I only use it when I'm already in X, and I find it very practical there to sort of say like, on each tweet, it has like a little Grok button and you say, hey, explain this tweet in more detail. So I think Grok is really practical in a very limited setting. But I was surprised to hear you saying, no, man, I'm using Grok more and more. It's actually really awesome. So I'm just wondering, I mean, maybe Meta finds some loyal users in that. You never know because they're going to have a great model and everything. So again, the standalone app is interesting to me because it'll give a better sense of like who's actually using Meta. I think it will only help Meta because it'll get sort of more people on board. They definitely can pump out, advertisements because they have billions of eyeballs. So anyway, so that's my take on the app. I'm curious to sort of see where it goes and if it's going to be a big nothing burger or if it's going to be like, well, this is where everybody's going to create their own app,
Yeah, no, I think that a standalone app, I heard people say this in the past. I'm like, oh, they're just trying to hype the news cycle. I remember ChatGPT when they first were coming out with their app. We saw significant usage increase after the app launched. So I don't think that it is a news cycle hype. We have quotes from Zuckerberg. We know a lot of people are already using it, but I think it's time to test it out in the real world. How many people will just choose to use it because it's not built into their social media platform? Zuckerberg said this is going to be the quote. This is going to be the year when a highly intelligent personalized AI assistant reaches more than 1 billion people. And I expect Meta AI to be that leading AI assistant. Ooh, bold claim, right? He said this he told some analysts this during their fourth quarter earnings call back in January. So in January, he said that Meta is going to be the leading AI assistant. Okay, bold claim. We'll see if it happens. I'm not really using it very much, but I actually do know people that like randomly use it. My wife, I feel like I talked about this in the past, but like the other day she was like, oh, like I tried using AI to come up with a personalized workout plan for me for X, Y, and Z thing I'm doing. And it's kind of like bad. And I'm like, oh, like, really, maybe you need to tweak the prompt a little bit. Like, what'd you ask ChatGPT? She's like, oh no, I use like the Meta one. And I'm like, oh no. Anyways, I hope they come up with an update. They're a little bit behind. But anyways, we We just put her exact same prompt. There's actually a great prompt into Grok, and it came up with a great thing. I'm sure ChatGPT would come up with a good one too. Okay, so I do think that the standalone apps, though, increase the usage a lot. Now, Connor, there's a video I've seen. I have to ask if you've seen it. I've thought of a whole bunch of ways I can tie it into the podcast to make it relevant to everything we're talking about. Have you seen the video of Mark Zuckerberg at his wife's 40th birthday dancing?
Yes, was he dressed as something or something like that?
Yeah, he was wearing Benson Boone's.
Jaeden is showing it right now. It's a tearaway tuxedo, and he's in this sparkly, with a V-neck down to his navel, light blue sparkles, and he's, not Elvis, but it's how I would imagine Elvis.
Yeah, I just feel like Mark Zuckerberg is living his absolute best life right now, but he might be a little bit distracted. He might be focusing on things other than his AI right now, and we need to get back to focusing on the AI. His wife's 40th birthday party is very important. I'm happy we could, I thought of like so many ways to integrate this clip into the segment. I was like, oh, we could demo like how on Grok you can click explain this post. But anyways, that's fantastic. So the other thing that I think is interesting that I want to get your take on is what Meta is doing with their anti-scam facial recognition test system. So they're having a way where you can take a selfie, they analyze it, they're testing out if you're a real person. This is for facial recognition stuff. What's your take on what's happening with AI? It's been a long time since we really got into this whole conversation that seemed very prevalent at the beginning about getting sort of like scammed by AI voice clones, and now you can do deepfake video with like HeyGen. You could have APIs tied into that with low latency, so it feels like you're doing a video call with like a family member. What's your take on kind of where we're at in the industry with that right now? Because I think it's kind of interesting.
I think it is too. And, Dario Amodei just did a long interview on Hard Fork, which is a phenomenal podcast. If you haven't heard that, Dario Amodei is the founder of Anthropic, which has the Claude chatbot. And he was saying how disappointed he was in the Paris summit, just in that, it seems like AI safety is no longer a thing. That's now being sort of converted to AI responsibility. Or if you're listening to JD Vance, vice president, it's like, let's just kind of toss that in the trash. And in a way, great, right? I think Europe really hamstrung themselves by really thinking, well, we can't release anything. And there's a lot I agree with in terms of saying like, look, let AI come to figure this out, and then let's regulate how AI is being used. But it has sort of shifted this protection to the back burner a little bit. And I don't think we can, I'm a huge AI optimist, Jaeden, as you know, but I don't think we can afford to do that. These deepfakes are so wildly realistic right now. And even if you and I try to figure it out, we have a hard time, right? So again, I did a thing with BBC recently where I read in my voice and then read, my Conor's 11 Labs AI voice, sort of an Alice in Wonderland clip, and my kids couldn't tell the difference. So when we think about photos and videos and things like that, I just think that we need this arms race. We need the good guys to win this arms race. And I'm not positive they are, because it's not just about whether you can sort of stop things from, being created, because with open source, I think it's a little bit of the Wild West out there. We also need to educate people that this is happening. That's easier said than done. But when we look at this new technology, Jaeden, you were the one telling me about this technology. Because you were like, oh, we got to talk about this. We got to talk about this. What were you seeing about the technology?
Okay, so this is really interesting, but I want to bring back I'll tell you what they're doing, because I think this is fascinating. I do want to bring back some of the historical data. Back in 2021, Facebook shut down. They had a decades-old facial recognition tool for photos, which had so many like regulatory and legal problems that they ended up shutting it down. What's funny to me now is it's the regulators that are like, hey, we want like some of these protections. So they're like, they got shut down for that, but now we're bringing back the facial recognition because it's for the regulators. I do think that's kind of funny. But here's what it's doing, and I actually think this is cool. Like, I'm a big hater on like all AI regulation and anything, because I feel like a lot of times it's overdone and it's slowing down development. And you look at the EU and you're like, whoops, that was a mistake. A lot of the stuff that they did. But this one I do think is kind of cool. What it's going to say, this is a quote from them. They said, in the coming weeks, public figures in the UK will start seeing an in-app notification letting them know they can now opt in to receive the celebrity bait protection with facial recognition technology. So essentially what's going to happen is if you are a public figure, a notorious issue that you see is that people will essentially go get Joe Rogan or whoever. They'll make a HeyGen video of Joe Rogan, clone him, a deep fake. Then they'll run an ad where it's Joe Rogan being like, you know what? I absolutely love Conor's AI mindset course. You have to have it. I told Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk, and they all said it's the greatest thing in the world, right? Okay, then they run this as an advertisement. Of course, Conor would never deepfake Joe Rogan to endorse his product, but I will endorse his product. And I do think that you should get the AI Mindset course, which is linked in the description. Okay, this is what people have been doing. And so now essentially what you can do is if you are a public figure, you're going to be able to take a selfie. So it's scanning your face. I think you might even be able to submit a video. It adds it to a database. And if the regulator or if Meta sees anyone using your likeness and image in an advertisement, they'll pull it down. Now, I'm assuming there's ways that you can use your own likeness and image in advertisements, and you can authorize it because that'd be kind of terrible. I use my face for, ads for products I run all the time. And so, you want to make sure that doesn't get mixed up. And it is tricky too, because it's I would probably enable that on my personal account, but then my business account, I'm the spokesperson for my business and it kind of runs ads of me. So I'm sure there's some things you got to figure out there. But overall, I think this is actually quite good because I do believe this is a real problem. And it's not even just deep fakes. It's not even just deep fakes. It's just using someone else's likeness and image. I think this is a good protection tool, but it uses AI to run the protection because this is the most nefarious scam and way to do this that I've seen. And I've probably talked about this in other episodes, but I just remember this. This is so crazy. You don't even have to deep fake the entire thing. Because I don't know about you, Connor, but when I see a deep fake video, there's a couple little tells I can get. The sneakiest thing I've seen kind of scammers or whatever these people do, they'll get a video of Joe Rogan or anyone else promoting an actual product or talking about an actual product. And it'll just be Joe Rogan. He's the thing that really helped me get ripped and really was the best workout supplement I ever had was, and then right before he says AG1 or whatever he's his paid endorsement is, they just deep fake the next word and then maybe move the lips a little bit to be Ted's sleazy powder, whatever, right? And all of a sudden, Joe Rogan's promoting Ted's sleazy powder, and the next line is his continuation of the clip, which is and this thing's been awesome for the gym, blah, blah. Now, if you watch the actual episode of Joe Rogan maybe talking to, Mark Zuckerberg about this workout protein powder that he uses, you're oh yeah, I kind of remember that. I guess it was Ted's sleazy powder that he's promoting, and maybe you go click on the ad and go buy it or something, because they only had to do a little bit. So this solves that problem. It's the facial recognition. If anyone else is using it, it uses AI, flags it, takes it down. I think that's kind of cool.
It's very cool. And I mean, and this is the thing, I also like it because it's coming up with interesting solutions to things, right? So when you're, and I know we're at time, but when you're, it used to be hey, Jen would need to verify, were you really you? But now with Midjourney, you can create these unbelievably fake things that look like you've just signed your name and stuff. It's just crazy. So I actually like the solution. It feels like it's attacking it exactly at the heart. It feels like it can actually work. So I'm excited about that. Listen, guys, pay attention to this stuff. Pay attention to the responsible AI side and the AI safety, everything else. If somebody's trying to sell you, what is it, Ted's sleazy powder?
Don't
you're
buy
going to
it.
want to. Don't. You heard that from Jaeden. Don't buy it. But what you should check out is Jaeden actually has an incredible community on the school community, SKOOL. And again, every once in a while, Jaeden will tell me these things. He's hey, I'm doing this. I'm dude, we got to talk about that on the podcast. He's dude, it's on my community. You got to join the community. It's only $19 a month. It is unbelievable. It's blowing up. Jaden's you got to do this. I'm you are the master. Anyway, check out that link in the description. Thanks for joining us today. We will see you next time.